CBS NEWSPATH.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building and I only bring the facts. When I make a highlight, they gon' replay, run it back. Okay, always locked in, now I don't got time to lax. Saying he the best, he could take a lap. Batted 1,000 when you check the stats. Boy, is you ready? You ain't gotta ask.
Welcome to this series finale of Just Winning. I'm your host, John Whitley, and what a ride it's been. It's certainly been a pleasure bringing you your sports each week. And what a week of sports that it has been this one. We have 2 new champions crowned in women's and both men's college basketball. The NBA is heating up as we move towards the final playoff stretch. Plus, we've had some trades shaking up the NFL. We're going to get into all of that and more. But first, let me introduce my guest, my good friend, the man who was on the first episode of this season, and now he's on the last episode of this season, Mr. Jeff Lokes. Jeff, how does it feel to be back in the studio?
I mean, it feels great to be back with y'all. Great to talk about sports. I mean, it's honestly a defining moment to start it and finish it with a legend just like you.
Oh, man, I certainly appreciate that. Jeff, the MVP race is really heating up in the NBA. Last week we had James Harden come out and say that he believes he should be this year's MVP. Jeff, I'm curious to know, who is your NBA MVP?
I mean, you have to go Jokic. Jokic is the defining answer. He is a game-managing center. That's something you cannot find in today's age. I mean, he just broke Wilt Chamberlain's record for the most triple-double scored in a season. So it just shows how impactful he's been to the game. He's at his career highs right now also. But his points, assists, blocks, pretty much every category you can think of. I mean, even his efficiency is up. He's just playing at a different level this season, and you're going to see it in the playoffs.
But Jeff, so is James Harden. We're seeing James Harden, bring something to the table that we haven't really seen from James Harden yet. This isn't Houston where, he's launching as many shots as he can in a game. He's sharing the ball. He's averaging 25.2 points a game, 8.2 rebounds, and 10.5 assists. He's nearly averaging a triple-double as well, okay? And he's doing it on the championship frontrunner in the NBA. So if he's the best player on essentially the best team, shouldn't he be the MVP?
I mean, I've said it all is defense wins championships, and that's something that Harden and the Brooklyn Nets lack in a great category.
Jeff, I got news for you. This is 2021. Welcome to the future, my friend. Defense doesn't win championships anymore in any professional sport for that matter. Nowadays, the game with the rule changes and everything, it's all about points. It's all about who can get the most buckets, and James Harden is better at that than Nikola Jokic or anybody in the league for that matter.
I mean, the triple-double stats, line right up. They're both tied for 12 triple-doubles over the season currently. So we'll see who takes the big stride in that category. But I do believe that defense always will play a role in a team's defining championship run. It doesn't matter where it is. It can go in college basketball, it can go in NBA, it can go even for any other sports. Defense wins championships, and that's a key.
Yeah, not these days, Jeff. And here's my other issue with Nikola Jokic. Okay, if he couldn't win MVP last year when the Denver Nuggets were the #1 team in the West for the majority of the season, now his stats are just a little bit better this year where Denver is 4th in the West. How is he going to win it this year if he couldn't win it last year?
I mean, you look at his field goal percentage, it's jumped 6%. His free throws are reliable as 88%. I mean, he's playing, like you said, above his level. But now with Aaron Gordon coming onto the team and the relaxation of Nikola Jokic not having to worry about that 4 spot, being voided by Paul Millsap, I think that it's all going to come together. And I think Jokic is just going to keep on prevailing throughout the season to keep on growing to get better.
Well, we'll certainly see what happens. Jeff, tell me this. Right now our 2 front runners, James Harden, Nikola Jokic, is there somebody else who, if they really turn up in this last stretch of the season, could break into that conversation?
Honestly, I believe that it's only the 2 right now. I mean, the betting odds right now are both on those 2 players, and those 2 players have been the stars of the season. I mean, the Brooklyn Nets and Denver Nuggets have been in the highlights and the headlines of each NBA article of how Nikola Jokic is breaking records, how James Harden is breaking records. But I think Nikola Jokic is a better record breaker than James Harden at the end of the day.
Man.
That beard does nothing.
I have to disagree with you, Jeff. I think, the beard is the best, okay? He's the best player in the NBA. He's on the best team in the NBA. He will be our MVP. Now, let me say this. I think with the Los Angeles Lakers, I think if LeBron James didn't get injured, I do think he'd be our MVP with the level of basketball he's playing. He's, he's like fine wine. He just gets better with age. And that was certainly true until now he's injured. Now he's out. Anthony Davis is out too. The Lakers are falling in the standings. Now they're the 5th seed in the West. Jeff, with these injuries, who is your new front runner in the Western Conference to win the Western Conference Finals and represent the West in the NBA Finals?
So 2 teams really make a standing to me right now. Donovan Mitchell's Jazz and Jamal Murray's, or you can say Nikola Jokic's Denver Nuggets squad. Both squads have built through free agency and have added pieces. I believe that Aaron Gordon is really going to propel those guys forward. He's that 4 spot that Paul Millsap, like I said, could never fill for the athleticism role. They were missing Jeremy Grant after letting him walk. It's a weird situation there for the 4 position. And with adding Aaron Gordon, that's a huge athletic buff to that spot. The Utah Jazz also, Rudy Gobert, you can't not think about Rudy Gobert. He's a defensive monster. And that's why I believe that they also have a big chance because defense wins championships.
Oh, not this again. Jeff, defense doesn't win championships anymore. I don't like the Denver Nuggets, okay? Ultimately, they don't have that guy who's going to get them over the hump of, say, what we saw last year with the Los Angeles Lakers. To me, the only team that really can break into that is the Los Angeles Clippers. They're quietly playing some really good basketball right now. And I think Kawhi Leonard is really at his best when he is under the radar. I think when he's under the radar, he breaks into the playoffs, he turns up his game, and he reminds us why he is in that top category of NBA players with the LeBron James, with the Giannis Antetokounmpos, with the James Hardens. So I think ultimately it's going to come playoff time. Kawhi Leonard's going to show up. Playoff P. He's looking to redeem himself from last year's embarrassing playoff run. And I said I wasn't going to fall for it with the Clippers again this year. But guess what? I'm telling you right now, I am all in on the Los Angeles Clippers.
And I can tell you exactly why I'm not at all in on them.
I'd love to hear it.
They're having the same issues as last year. I mean, they're 8-11 with 5 points being down in any five. So if they're down by 5 points, they're 8-11. Going in for the final 5 minutes in each game. So they're not a clutch team at all still. And they get destroyed every time they play a young stud like a Luka Doncic, like a Trae Young. I mean, like a Donovan Mitchell.
I don't think you'd have to worry about Trae Young.
I mean, if you make it all that way in a couple of years, I mean, I think the Atlanta Hawks are
but
going
guess
to be a
what,
sleeper
Jeff?
team in the next years.
We're talking about regular season. You're talking about regular season. Kawhi Leonard's a different animal when he gets to the playoffs, okay? Mm-hmm. And he, you put him on Luka Doncic, you put him on Donovan Mitchell. He's going to hold him in check, and he's going to get his on the offensive end. I think really a lot of their playoff struggles last year came from the fact that Lou Williams statistically is one of the worst playoff performers of all time. And I love Lou Williams, but he doesn't show up in the playoffs, and he's taken a lot of shots in the playoffs. Now those shots are going to be going to a Kawhi Leonard, to a Paul George, as they should, and the Los Angeles Clippers are going to make that run come playoff time.
You can't win with a clutch offensive rating of being 22nd in the league. You just can't win that way, especially when you pride yourself off of having 2 great players that are both offensive minded. Even though Kawhi Leonard is an awesome defensive player, he is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, defense wins championships. He's probably the best defensive player in the entire NBA.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's just weird.
Let me tell you, man. You bring up their clutch rating. I don't care, man. I don't care what they do in the regular season because I've seen it time and time again with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard doesn't care about the regular season. He doesn't care about winning MVP. Kawhi Leonard will probably never win an MVP because he's not focused on that. He's focused on getting to the playoff, and then he locks in, he raises his game, and he's going to do it this year, and they are going to win the NBA championship.
The last thing I have to say is Kawhi Leonard is no LeBron James. And no disrespect.
He's no LeBron James, but he's probably the next best thing.
But with an aging squad, I mean, Lou Will, Patrick Bev, there's a lot of players that are aging, and no player can really carry an aging team like that besides LeBron James. It wasn't like Toronto Raptors were having, a bunch of 30-year-olds on the team. They were young.
This time going into the playoffs with that Raptors team, Okay, that season, nobody at this time of the year was talking about the Raptors to win it all with Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard was under the radar. He was keeping his load managed, and then he gets to the playoffs, he turns it up, and he's going to do it again this year. It's a very similar situation.
I mean, I'd love to see that. 2 LA teams possibly fighting it off again in the playoffs. I'd love to see that, but I guess we'll see with how their efficiency is on the offensive side.
I think it looks good, Jeff. Here's your homework for the week. I want you to go home. I want you to watch the Los Angeles Clippers this week. I'm telling you, they've raised their game. They're not the same team they were last year.
I mean, they just were blown out by the New Orleans Pelicans, and I'm sorry, but the New Orleans Pelicans are a 10 seed. I mean, you can't get blown out by them at this time of the season, especially when you're wanting to gain confidence going into the playoffs.
It's no problem, Jeff. This isn't the playoffs. This is the regular season. Some nights that's what it's going to look like. Now, Jeff, a team I'm very intrigued by is the Phoenix Suns. Right now, they're sitting number 2 in the Western Conference, but they don't really have a ton of playoff experience. But that addition of Chris Paul might make a real difference in the playoffs. How seriously should we take the Phoenix Suns?
Serious. Ever since Chris Paul came, they've been a different team. It seems like Devin Booker has finally seen a leader on a team that was full of young guys. Like Aiden's young, Booker's young. I mean, Darius Saric is young when he's on there. It is a lot of young talent. I don't think anyone really grabbed the team and said, hey, let's play this type of minded ball. Let's play this type of defensive minded ball, and let's put it together. And I feel like Chris Paul has really put a lot of positive into that organization.
Yeah, man, I can't tell you, man, I'm so excited to see this team in the playoffs because I've always been a huge Chris Paul fan, and I don't think he gets enough credit for the type of playoff performer he is. I really think he is a good playoff player, but he hasn't really been on that team yet that's really primed to make a run. And, you got Devin Booker, who is, probably the best shooter in the NBA, especially with Klay Thompson out. So I'm really excited to see what this team does. Ultimately, I think, a team like the Los Angeles Clippers is just too much for them. But, I can't wait to see what happens. NBA playoffs cannot come soon enough. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get into our Beast, Bust, and Best of the Week.
It's coming back. We're going to need no way. Welcome to the HTF Hot Wings Challenge. One of you guys actually do hot sauce regularly?
No.
No.
It's like the least black thing I do.
Oh, wow, okay.
I say Johnny goes first on this one.
I agree.
Now, the Buccaneers are going to play the Washington football team.
That can't happen.
It will happen.
I'm terrified.
No, I really hate it.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Just look at them now. Taylor Swift is still making bops and winning Grammys. Kanye's getting divorced. Come on.
No. You're wrong. If it wasn't for Kanye jumping up on stage and doing the, I'm gonna let you finish, but no one would know Taylor Swift.
Oh, it's not that. Oh my god.
And that was a lot.
Nitro's dump truck. And if you don't know what I'm talking about,
Look it up.
Why is Nitro thick?
I don't know how many squats I need to do to get up something like that, but I will do it.
Really? That's the worst one? Just
You
give
didn't
it
eat
a
it right,
minute.
look.
Hang on. It's catching up.
Oh! Oh my god!
Baseball, obvious reasons. Babe Ruth. If you want to go currently the Dodgers. I feel like that's just a thing.
he jumped off the wall to catch the home runner.
Catch the home runner.
I don't
I get many home runners.
We made it through all the way to the end. Thank you for joining us.
I'm never doing this again.
Welcome back to the Beast, Bust, and Best of the Week. It's been an amazing week in sports. As I mentioned earlier, we've got new champions crowned in men's and women's basketball. We've got the NBA. We've got trades in the NFL. That's why I can't wait to see, Jeff. Tell me, who is your Beast of the Week?
My Beast of the Week, I'm going to bring it back home. Chuma Okeke. I've already spoke about you before. I'm going to speak about you again. This is a very, very talented young man, and like I said, with a lot of hope lost, with the Orlando Magic finally blowing up their build of being an 8th seed for 3+ years, now we're starting to see that the plan is let's build between Chuma, let's build between RJ Hampton, let's build between these guys, and we'll see where they take us, hopefully past the 8th seed.
Yeah, hopefully past the 8th seed. Jeff, I got to tell you, since the Magic made these trades, they've been a real joy to watch. I look forward to watching the Magic, and yeah, they're not winning games, but it's so exciting to see them developing these young guys that show a lot of promise. And, probably the guy who's showing the most promise right now is Chuma Okeke. He reminds me a lot of Tobias Harris when we first brought him in. He's only 6'6", but he plays a lot bigger than 6'6". He'll get in there, he'll get rebounds, and he's always good for a bucket. I love what Chuma Okeke is doing right now. I was so excited when we drafted him. I remember him at Auburn in the SEC championship. He won the SEC tournament MVP. He was an absolute baller in college, and he's translating so great to the NBA. So I've loved everything Chuma Okeke has done. My beast of the week, I'm going with none other than Roy Williams. He retired this week after 33 seasons of coaching at such a high level in college basketball. He finished with a record of 903 and 264. So, one of the most winning coaches. He won 3 championships and, really an absolute legend in college basketball. One of the greatest to ever do it.
To keep on competing each and every year in the ACC, it's completely just a tough challenge. I mean, ACC is always stacked with, a Duke, with a Florida State squad that's maybe going to pop off. There's always a squad, and he kept on putting a talented team together every year in North Carolina. That's awesome. Yeah,
it was really cool to see. He when he retired, he said he felt like he wasn't the guy for the job anymore. We've seen Hubert Davis, a former assistant, come to take over. Jeff, what do you think about his comments that he's not the guy for the job right now, and what do you think about the forecast of this program with Hubert Davis at the helm?
UNC basketball, it's a brand, it's an image, it's college basketball, it's a part of college basketball. I mean, I don't think they're going to suffer much because the recruiting is always going to be there. But we're going to have to see. It's big shoes to fill. It's big shoes to fill, especially for him.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to see it. Hopefully, they'll be able to take down Duke next year a few more times. I can't wait to see. Jeff, on another note, who is your bust of the week?
The bust, New York Jets. You can be an infinite bust, actually. The Jets, letting go your top weapon in Robbie Anderson, you can see how they're going to suffer because of that. Trading away Sam Darnold this week, the latest news. Trading away just for a second-round pick for next year and a few late picks, it's just not worth it. It seems like they're always on the rebuild mode. And as a Browns fan, I can definitely relate. And you have to blow it up at top. You have to blow up the management, and the management needs to be gone. Gase needs to be gone. You saw what he did with Miami. Now look at Miami with Brian Flores. They're thriving. I know they don't have the same team as once, but they're thriving as an organization. It all starts up top.
Yeah, the Jets stink, okay? And now they're rumored to draft Zach Wilson. I don't know who they think Zach Wilson is, but he's not a guy who's going to come in there and totally change everything for them in 1 year and make everything better. And I don't see the Jets being good for a long time. Losing playmakers like Robbie Anderson. They seem to have no direction right now. And my bust of the week, I'm actually going with the other side of this trade, the Carolina Panthers, okay? Everybody's hyping them up right now like they made such a good trade, like Darnold is some great QB. If Darnold's such a good QB, why are the Jets trading him so they can draft another quarterback, okay? And I get you didn't have to give up much to get him, but you did give up a second-round pick. Now, just a year ago, you spent this money to bring in Teddy Bridgewater. He showed some promise, and you're just going to give up on him after 1 year? Like, what are you doing? What is the plan for the Carolina Panthers? Okay, I don't see it because Sam Darnold's not a guy who's going to turn everything around, and he's probably not a guy who's going to play better than Bridgewater did last year. And bring in Bridgewater. Did you really think he was going to be that much better than he was last year? Like, this guy's never showed signs that he's going to be an elite NFL quarterback. If you're Matt Rule and you really want to save your job, you got to use your first-round draft pick, and you got to draft a quarterback who can be the guy, whether it's Justin Fields, whether it's Mac Jones. If you don't take that risk, you're going to be out in 3 years because, yes, you showed promise in your first year, but you didn't make the playoffs, okay? So if these next 2 years go like last year, he's going to be on the hot seat. He's going to be out of job. So Carolina Panthers, you are my bust of the week. I don't care what anybody says.
It's really tiring to see great players' careers ruined, like C-Mac, for example. I mean, he played really well alongside Teddy Bridgewater when he was healthy last season, and then when you removed him from the equation and had Mike Davis, he even played at a high level. The offense actually looked extremely well for the Carolina Panthers with Teddy Bridgewater as the signal caller. So it's just a super confusing call, especially with a lot of talent coming back in offense this year.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Christian McCaffrey, at this rate, he's going to be up there with the Calvin Johnsons, with the Andre Johnsons, as far as guys who really had their Hall of Fame career kind of wasted by being on a terrible team who can't put a winning team around them.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and it's just sad. It shows how the NFL draft possibly could change in the future, where all these tanking teams can't get these studs, and maybe it's randomized to the point where now these studs don't have to go to a dying team. Even about Saquon Barkley, they're not a dying team, but Saquon Barkley is a absolute stud, and it feels like he's another running back that has had having his career ruined on a team that's just dwindling in space right now.
Yeah, the Saquon, the Giants, I do think they are trending in the right direction, whether Danny Dimes is the guy or not. Saquon, it's a little interesting because, you know, he can't stay healthy, he can't stay on the field, and to be a great player, you got to play. Simple as that. Now back to the Carolina Panthers, Jeff. What do you think they should do with their draft pick now that they have 2 quarterbacks on their roster that, you know, we're not really sure what they have?
So when you get a young stud and a QB as Sam Darnold, and no, he's not a stud, but coming from USC, everyone thought he was going to be a stud, just like the Zach Wilson situation right now, an overhype of the QB. The main target you need to get is a big baller wide receiver. And obviously Baker and Odell Beckham didn't click, but when they picked up Jarvis Landry, Baker and Mayfield, Jarvis Landry clicked. You need a good wide receiver. So someone like a Devontae Smith, one of those wide receivers that drop in the draft, Jamar Chase, even if you have to trade up, I would definitely grab another offensive weapon alongside C-Mac and then try it out with Teddy Bridgewater. And then if that doesn't work out, try out with Sam Darnold. And it probably won't work out because the Jets have already broken Sam Darnold, but continue.
Yeah, it's a real shame. I will tell you, I love this wide receiver draft. If they're going to go wide receiver, this is the perfect draft to do it. Who's your top wide receiver in this draft class?
I'm not going to go Jamar Chase. That's a popular pick. Devontae Smith, always. He's not underrated by any means, but he's still not rated at the right position. He's a Heisman winner as a wide receiver. People are not even thinking he's going to be the first wide receiver taken. That's ridiculous in my opinion. He made Mac Jones what he was at Alabama, in my opinion. I don't think Mac Jones is going to be that great in the NFL. I'm going to say that right now. And the main reason is because of those 5-star studs that they have at Alabama that are catching balls, that are taking it down the sideline for 90 yards, padding those stats. Devontae Smith is the real deal, and he's going to change a team's landscape, their future. He's going to be a dominant player.
Absolutely, man. Devontae Smith, such a polished route runner. Jeff, who is your best of the week?
My best of the week is going to be the Denver Nuggets. So I've hyped the Denver Nuggets all the way up, and I'm going to keep on doing it. They have played at an exceedingly great level during this past month and a half. You know, the first 2 games with Aaron Gordon was a bit rough, but once they've really picked up their stride, Jamal Murray's playing at an elite level. With missing Gary Harris now, we thought, how is that going to change the team? Hasn't changed them much. Now they're going to have to find a different option on the bench to fill that 6-man role, that come in the game, hit that shot type of role. But this team, I'm going to keep on standing them. They're going to be better than the Brooklyn Nets at the end of the season. Better record, better players overall. Even though they're a super stud team in the Nets, I don't think they connect chemistry-wise together. I think Jokic, Aaron Gordon, you know, Millsap when he comes off the bench, all of those guys are going to be towers down below and play really great defense for championships.
Oh, man. Jeff, you and your Denver Nuggets, man, I'm telling you this right now. The Nuggets, they're not getting past the semifinals in the Western Conference playoffs, okay? They're not that good. They don't have that guy who, you know, you can rely on beyond the arc when you're matched up with a tough team and get those buckets. Now, Jeff, I'm so disappointed in you. I'm going to give you another chance. I'm going to give you a bonus best of the week.
So, my best of the week is going to have to be the NFL jersey change. I mean, that is an insane change right there. Seeing Odell wear number 3, seeing Alvin Kamara go back to his college number, seeing Ezekiel Elliott wear number 6 like he did with the Ohio State Buckeyes. That's going to be a sight to see in the NFL, especially with a Derrick Henry running at you with a singular number. That's already terrifying to watch him run at you with his number right now, but imagine running at you with a number 3. Like what are you going to do? He's just a tank, and he's already in the number. The number change means a lot because the singular digits have always been the star players, and now some of these actual star players get to fulfill those roles, and I'm excited.
Absolutely, man. Now that is a great best of the week. I'm no longer disappointed in you. Johnny Jackson is no longer disappointed in you. Okay, this is sweet, man. I'll tell you, in Madden, I always give those guys that wore the single numbers in college that couldn't do it in the NFL because of a rule that really made no sense. I'd always give them that number they wore in college. You know, Derrick Henry in the number 2, Odell Beckham in the number 3. It's amazing to see. Jeff, let me ask you this: who are you most looking forward to see go to a singular number?
I'm excited for Beckham as a Browns fan. I mean, we haven't had a stud be on our team in ever, and he hasn't played well. But hopefully, once that number change comes, him and Jarvis can connect again like they did at LSU. Baker can start throwing targets again. I just love to see him do a one-hand catch with a number 3. That would just be iconic.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's probably in my top. My top one is I'm an Alabama guy, so I got to go Derrick Henry in the number 2 that he won the Heisman in. That'd be great to see. Now, my best of the week, I'm going with the new men's basketball champions, the Baylor Bears, okay? All the hype was surrounding Gonzaga coming into this game, but Baylor, they play the better team basketball. They hustled. They got all the offensive rebounds. They look like the longer, more athletic team. The Baylor Bears are my best of the week.
It seems like Gonzaga could have never just gone a step in that game. They came out there super flat, and Baylor just took advantage and just kept their foot on their necks the whole game. And it was just something to see, like, for the dominance that they showed.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning of the game. I mean, going up by 6 or 7, unscored against, it's hard in a title game. And Baylor, shout out to them, and that was a great, great win.
Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. You know, They won it wire to wire, and I think Baylor was a team who really got better in the tournament bubble. You know, I couldn't pick them in my bracket because into the regular season, into the Big 12 tournament, they were a team that was really struggling. You know, they weren't covering spreads. You know, they were letting teams hang around. They had so many close calls, but you get into the bubble, you get a new environment, you sort of reset your focus. They really got better. They were really the hot team, and they're the new NCAA men's basketball champions.
Do you believe that UCLA bursted open Gonzaga's bubble?
What do you mean by that?
You know, taking them to the end there with a buzzer beater having to beat an 11 seed UCLA team that was Cinderelling themselves all the way into the Final Four. Do you think that really took the wind out of Gonzaga last night?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this. You know, Baylor, they had the earlier game that day, and it was another big wire-to-wire win. So then, you know, they're done with that game, you know, early evening. They get to go rest. In Gonzaga, on their hand, they had the late tip-off. It was a game that went late into the night where, you know, they had to really hustle and grind for that win, leave it all out on the court. Going into, it was already a late tip-off, and then you got to go to an extended overtime to, you know, barely squeak out a win. That takes a lot out of a team where, you know, as this is happening, Baylor's in their hotel getting the rest. So Baylor, they really had a lot going for themselves going into this game.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a great win overall, a great overall tournament. I mean, the Final Four it was just a privilege to watch. UCLA hitting a buzzer and then right back Gonzaga coming down. Like, you don't see that every other day, and that's why we all love March Madness, and I can't wait for it to come back.
Absolutely, man. It was so great having it back this year after missing it last year. I hope we never have to miss another March Madness ever again. It was amazing. Guys, that's all the time we have for today. It's been such a pleasure, as I said, bringing you your sports each week from the Nicholson studio. It's something I'm certainly going to miss. So thank you all for tuning in. And as always, have a great week.
Things gon' change when I really hit the field. Undefeated champs, man, you know what's the deal. Tryna find a kid, I'm in the field doing drills. Boy, you just a sucker, you ain't never keep it real. 3 rings in my hand, I'm a warrior to the max. When I hang it up, they gon' have to give me plaques. Step up in the building.